Educator's Ag Institute. Today we have a tour of a Pennsylvania dairy farm, and we'll be joined by Stacy, Amy, and Mallory. So I'm Cassidy. I'll be your host for right now. Just a little bit of housekeeping. There is a pre-test. If you have not taken it, the link is in the chat box. Please do so. We cannot hear or see you throughout this session, but there is a chat box. If you want everyone to see everything, you'll need to make sure the drop down says to panelists and attendees. Now, if you have questions for our presenters, please drop those in the Q&A box so we can find them and get to all of them. Lastly, everyone can see all these chats, so please be respectful. But with that, I am going to turn it over to our presenters.
Wonderful. Thanks, Cassidy. So just real quick, before we get to the fun part of the tour, my name is Amy Leslie. I am with American Dairy Association Northeast, and we are hosting today for the virtual farm tour. So thank you all for joining. Just wanted to take a few minutes here to talk about who American Dairy Association Northeast is and why we think it's important to be part of the Educator's Ag Institute. We're glad to be here and thank you for having us. So American Dairy Association Northeast is farmer funded and directed organization. We use checkoff dollars from dairy farmers like Stacy, who you'll meet here soon, to deliver a strategic, comprehensive marketing plan on behalf of dairy farmers. So that's our marketing region there, the map that you see. Those of you that aren't from the area, we will be in Lebanon, Pennsylvania with Stacy here today. So in Southeast Pennsylvania, but we do cover up into New York and New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, and the northern counties in Virginia. So we cover this region, about 10,000 dairy farmers in that region and 50 million consumers. So we tried new and different ways to reach our consumers. And one of those ways is through the virtual farm tour program. We started this program actually back in 2017, 2018. We were well ahead of when virtual became cool within the last year. So we have virtual farm tours geared towards pre-K to third graders, fourth to sixth graders, and seventh to 12th grade. So we will have 3 different tours in the fall and in the spring. And you can find more information about our upcoming tours. We won't have them until the fall this year. We had our spring ones back in May. But then our fall tours and all of our other information is on our website that you can see there. I'll also, once we get going on the tour, I'll drop these links into the chat, and then Cassidy will also send them afterwards. So you will have all the ways to get this information. We also have recordings of our previous virtual farm tours. So those are all on our YouTube channel. So if you don't get enough of Stacy today, you can watch her 2 more times from her previous tours earlier in the year, or the other grade levels as well from previous tours. So those are all on our YouTube playlist as well. Another education resource that is available and free to all of you, and just kind of something a little bit different. Last year, we launched the Fun on the Farm series on Facebook. And then this past fall, we did, or this spring, we did This American Dairy Farmer. So both of those are our Facebook series that are also on our YouTube channels, just showing a little bit of a different side of the farmer and the farm. They're shorter video segments that you'll see. So if you have, younger kiddos with a shorter attention span that need something quicker, those are available, along with our virtual farm tours. And then finally, we also work with a company called Young Minds Inspired to work on dairy-based science and math STEM lesson plans, free education resources. They're all downloadable from our website on americandairy.com. And And there, Cassie, hold on just a second. Mallory is calling me, so I'm gonna try and take this real quick.
While they're taking care of that, I'm just going to share some of the resources that you got in your box if you registered in time, because there are some things that are potentially very helpful. One of those is a Tales of the Dairy Godmother, which relates to our current session. And this was actually what we used for Ag Literacy Week this year. So
okay. Minor technical glitch, I apologize. Mallory's phone overheated, so they're gonna go into the barn and hopefully get that cooled off, and she will try to log back in here within the next couple minutes. So Cassidy, if you can keep your eyes open for when she sees or when she comes back in. But like I was saying, Young Minds Inspired is a free education resources on our website as well. They're all, follow the core curriculum standards. So no worries by that standpoint. And again, talk about ways that dairy farmers work in sustainability and animal care, but also relating that to science and math and technology. So really interesting and again, free lesson plans that you can use in your classrooms. They are also tailored to different age levels. So you can use that in different ways depending on who you are teaching. So again, those lesson plans are on ymiclassroom.com and they are free to share. So with that, looks like, and I'm gonna go ahead and stop share, and like I said, I'll put all those links into the chat, so don't worry if you didn't jot all those down, but just wanted to give you all a snapshot of what resources are available to talk about dairy in your classrooms. So hopefully it looks like, good question from Susan, check off dollars. So every, Mallory, hi. Every farmer pays into dairy checkoff. So for every 100 weight of milk, 100 pounds of milk, there's 15 cents that is allotted to dairy checkoff that goes towards dairy promotion efforts. So that's a lot of what we do, we're a local dairy promotion program to promote dairy. So with that, Stacy, can you hear me?
I can.
Wonderful. We're back up and running. I will toss it to you and we'll hopefully stay cool enough now, right?
Okay, great. Well, welcome to Hellview Dairy. Like they said already, my name is Stacy Copenhaver, and we are located here in Lebanon County, Pennsylvania. We're about 10-15 minutes away from Hershey. So that might be a familiar location for many of you with chocolate. But especially being teachers, you know how you have to be flexible. So we are definitely being flexible today. We are starting here in the parlor. This is usually where we end our tours, but it's very appropriate that we start here because this is the heart of our business. This is where we milk, and this is where we are able to make money for our business. So we milk 250 black and white Holsteins. We have a few red and white as well. So I'm just going to kind of take you here in the parlor. But before I do get started a little bit with some facts about our milking, I just want to commend all of you as educators. I am a former teacher as well before staying home with our children. I was a 4th grade teacher and a 6th grade teacher. And now being a dairy farmer and a former teacher, I just love bringing those two passions together. So I love to educate on ag, especially dairy education. So I think that is so important. So thank you for participating in this event today. I also just want to say there are many resources. I know that as a teacher, you try to fill your toolbox with a lot of different things that you can pull out and use and implement in your classroom. And American Dairy definitely has a lot of resources available that are fantastic, and they are free. I know we as teachers love that word. Free is huge. So with all of that being said, like I said, this is our parlor. This is what we call a parallel parlor. There are 12 cows on each side. Right now we have our herdsman in here, Ed, who is milking, and I'm just going to show you a little bit about what goes on in here. First of all, our cows, they each have a band on their ankle, and that allows us to see their activity level. It is programmed with their cow number, their identification. So we are able to track their health and their activity on a daily basis. The one thing that also does for us, this little sensor is able to read that. So technology is huge here on the farm, just like it is in the classroom. This is actually cow number 1057. And for this milking, she gave 9,500 milk. So the first thing that we do in order to prepare them for milking is we use this foamer, and actually none of them are ready for this. They're actually ready to go out. So in the beginning, I would dip the cows' teats. They have 4 teats on their udder. This is kind of like a special solution that helps to clean and get rid of any bacteria or germs. We then go through, after we dip them with our pre-dip, we then take a cloth, and each cow has their own cloth, so we don't cross-contaminate between cows. We take this cloth, we clean off the udder, all 4 teats, we strip out it. I am just gonna show you how to strip. You start at the top of the teat and you squeeze down, and you can see that milk. You kind of check to make sure it's a nice, white, pure looking milk stream. And it also helps to activate her letdown of milk. Once we go through and do that, we then, of course, turn the milker on. We can either push that or this button down here, and a little vacuum starts. It pulsates. It doesn't hurt the cow. It just like slightly pulsates on their teats, and that is where they're able to let their milk down. So as you can see then, the milkers, they can sense when the cow is soon finished with milking. We have here, wrong side, sorry. This little piece here, this is where the milk flows into, and maybe we should go to one that actually milk is flowing. So let me go down here for a moment. So you can see milk is flowing in this little piece of equipment, and this is where it is able to get the weight of how much milk. This is what senses when the cow is finished milking, and the milker automatically releases. And in order to then finish up, you can see Ed is coming here with a post-dip. That is also a solution just to keep the teats healthy, so that when they return back to their stalls, which we will see later, they will not pick up any dirt or germs that will affect them. We're also going to see here, he just pushed a button that's going to release. The front gate opens up, and they are all able to exit back to the freestall barn, where we will see at our next location. So it's just this continual process. We have our next set of cows coming through, our next 12. And they are very well trained. Cows definitely like routine. They do a great job coming in here. They love to give their milk. The one thing at our farm, farmers milk their cows either 2 or 3 times every day. Here at our farm, we milk 3 times a day. That is 5 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, which you are seeing right now, and then in the evening at 9. Excuse me. So I'm just going to kind of show you with this first one. Here's the pre-dip going on, the foam. I'll let you do the rest. Yeah. So we let that sit on for about 15 seconds, and then we would go through. So the one thing about the cows, I said that we milk them 3 times a day. The one thing about cows is they give a lot of milk in a day's time. Our cows give about 90 pounds of milk every day. And to kind of help you understand that, that would be about 10 gallons of milk. So our, our weight is in pounds, but in the store, you are used to gallons. So they give about 10 gallons of milk a day. So I don't know if there's any questions here in the parlor.
Not right now. I'm not seeing any. But
Okay.
I'll ask one. Do you only have black and white cows on your farm?
Okay.
Or what about the breeds of cows?
The breeds of, yes, we have black and white Holstein and also some red and white Holstein. So that is a very popular breed in our area and around the United States. They are just a nice, strong, hardy animal, and they are able to produce a fair amount of milk. So Holsteins, they have a nice temperament too. I know, especially if you talk to my husband who worked at a place for a little bit in his college years, they had Jerseys, excuse me. And they could be a little temperamental. They kick a little bit more and things like that. So Holsteins are a very nice temperament breed.
Super.
My water is over in the freestyle barn.
We did get a question, a comment about love seeing the technology being used. So that is really a neat, yeah, dairy farms nowadays have, great technology in various ways. And I know Stacy will talk about that in the freestyle barn as well. How many cows do you milk during a shift is a question.
How many? I'm sorry, it's hard to hear in here with the fans and everything. I'm just going to step out so I can hear your question.
No
we
problem.
have a lot of fans going to keep the worker and the cows comfortable.
Yeah, we can go to
ask the question again.
How many cows do you milk during a shift?
Okay, we have to milk all of the cows in a shift. So we milk 250 cows 3 times a day. So, and of course, they get milked on weekends and holidays as well. So every shift, all 250 cows are milked.
And how long are they usually in the parlor then, Stacy?
Yes, they are in there. Milking really only takes about 5 to 10 minutes. So their time being milked is very short in a day's time. The majority of their time is out here in the freestyle barn where we just came, and I can hear a little bit better out here, I think. And as you can see, this is where they live. They are able to eat and drink. They lie down. And especially, I don't know wherever you are, hopefully you're in air conditioning. Mallory and I are sweating bullets out here. It is a very hot day in Lebanon County here, but we have a lot of different things to keep the cows cool and comfortable. We have some fans. You can see we have some fans that are definitely going right now. We also have a sprinkler system that releases water through different time periods. And we also have bedding that they are able to lie down in or on. It is freshened up every milking. We go through and we scrape any manure or other things that might be there that would cause discomfort for the cows. The one other feature that we have, of course, to keep them comfortable is food. Cows are really big animals. They actually have a stomach that has 4 compartments, and that is why they are able to eat a lot of things that we as humans are not able to eat. So you can see these girls are here with a big pile of feed in front of them. I'm just going to show some of the ingredients that are in their feed. We actually call this TMR. That stands for Total Mixed Ration. And we work with a nutritionist who helps us to know how much of a certain ingredient needs to go into their mix. It's kind of like when I do tours for elementary school age children, I many times say it's kind of like when you have a plate at dinner time and you have maybe a hamburger, mashed potatoes, and peas. We mix all of that up together so they aren't able to push out the peas if they don't like that. So we mix all the different ingredients together for them. And they eat about 100 to 120 pounds of feed every day. So they consume a lot of feed. They also, along with that feed, they consume a lot of water. People kind of compare it to, if you would think about a bathtub and fill a bathtub, that is about the amount of water that they drink every day. So that's about 25 to 50 gallons of water. So here are some of the things that go into their TMR, which is a total mixed ration. I'm going to get a drink real quick. Excuse me.
Well, while you do that, Stacey, we did have one comment, and then we're getting a lot of good questions too, so we'll definitely get to those. But the one comment was, the cows were so well trained leaving and coming from the parlor. My high school students could learn from them for entering and exiting my classroom.
Yes, that's great.
I can very much understand or appreciate that would be difficult at times. So I'll let you talk about the feed, because the questions here are not necessarily about the feed.
Okay.
So go ahead and talk about what they eat, and then we can get to some of these other questions.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, of course, we grow a lot of the crops that we use to feed our animals. This is ground corn. This is cornmeal. So this is part of their carbs that gives them some energy that they need. We have corn silage. You can see some of the corn kernels here, but this is kind of taking the entire stalk of corn and putting it all together. So that is called corn silage. This is what the majority of their feed is. This is, sometimes in the spring, you see some grassy forages growing. This is what we call rilage. So this is also an ingredient. And then because some of these things, we need to add some extra minerals and vitamins. This here is a special concentrate that has some added nutrients of vitamins and minerals that the cows need. So these are the 4 main ingredients that our cows are eating. And like I said, the one thing, as farmers, we rely on a lot of other ag-related jobs. We work with a nutritionist who works with us to come up with our diet plan for the cows. We also work with a veterinarian on a weekly basis. Right now, you can actually see the sprinkler system going on this hot day. So our main thing here at the farm as dairy farmers are to keep our cows comfortable and content and happy. And I know many people ask, well, do they really like to be in the barn? And they actually do prefer being in a barn because it is temperature controlled. We have so many different systems in place that makes it the ideal temperature for cows. So they like the shade in the summer. They like that it blocks the wind in the winter. So it is a place that they are very happy and content. And if you look at them now, I know Mallory is zooming in on them eating. They are just enjoying their special total mixed ration that's in front of them. And that is in front of them all day, every day.
Perfect. So Stacy, and I know you just touched on it, kind of two related questions. What type of bedding is in the stalls? What type of bedding do you use? And what do you do to increase cow comfort? So you were talking about the, you know, the fans and the sprinklers, I think with the bedding and whatever else you do for cow comfort.
Yes. Some other things that we do for cow comfort. And maybe we want to look over here where the cows are not right now blocking the way. We have special mattresses that they lie down on, and we put, it's a wood shading that goes on that. So we actually change those out 3 times a week, that we change the shadings, that they're clean. And actually our workers will come out and actually move the shavings around, that it's like more even on the mattress. So that's one way that we try to keep them comfortable. Of course, having food and water available to them all the time. And if you also look, we have these yellow brushes. Cows love to rub up, and no cow is doing that right now because they're actually eating, but they like to walk up and kind of get like a little massage, a back rub. So that is another thing that we have there to make them comfortable. The other thing that we have, of course, since they do some walking, it is important that every month we have a hoof trimmer that comes, and he takes care of their feet and trims their hooves if they need to be trimmed. So it's kind of like they're getting a little pedicure. We also have a special area which we can't get to because it's where the cow traffic is, so we won't go back there, but there's a little area that the cows walk through after being milked. It's called a foot bath, and that is just an area that their feet get washed, and there's a special treatment in there to make sure that their feet don't get sore. So that's another thing that we do to keep the cows comfortable as well. And of course, I talked about the band on their leg. We're able to know, like, we are able to see their activity level. So if a cow is not up and moving around very much on a daily basis, we can look at our computer, and we have an app that actually tells us maybe who is not feeling well that day because of their activity level. So we can go and check on them and see, like, do they need something that they're not feeling well? Do we need to get the vet involved? So there's a lot of different things that we do to make sure that our cows are comfortable.
Perfect. And on that, I guess, theme and kind of idea, a couple questions around, you know, how long does a cow produce milk? What is their what's their average lifespan, and how many calves do they have kind of in their lifetime?
Yep. And I feel like I'm a little out of sorts since we did change the tour and kind of went backwards. It's fine. It's just a way, but in order to produce milk, like other mammals, they need to have a baby. So that is where we will end our tour today with the calf hutches. But by the time an animal is about 2, they're going to have their first calf. And after she has her calf, she is able to produce milk. She will produce for a few months, and then they go through a period where we call that they're a dry cow. So we give them a few months to kind of relax. They are stopping or slowing down their production. And then in order to increase again and to be able to produce milk, they need to have another calf. So in a cow's lifespan, they have about 3 to 4 calves. And their pregnancy, or their time that they are carrying a calf, is about 9 months. So it's very similar to a human as well. So especially being married to a dairy farmer, I will tell you, when we have 3 children, and I feel like many times my husband was comparing things that I was going through as a soon-to-be mother to cows. So very similar in how we have our young and how long we grow the young inside of us, and then also, of course, to be able to produce milk. So in about their lifespan, probably our oldest cow on the farm probably is about 9. That's probably the oldest cow. So like I said, by the age 2, they have their first calf, and then throughout their cycle, they have about 3 to 4 calves in their lifespan.
Yep, awesome. And I like to relate, 2 sounds really young, but the analogy that I've used in the past is that their age in months is our age in years. So if
Yes.
a cow is 2 years old, she's 24 months, she's having her first calf at what would be similar to our 24-year-old age.
Yes, that's a great comparison.
So before we go a little bit back to your feed conversation, are there waste products from ag that people use as part of as part of their TMR? Maybe some different byproducts that maybe you've used in the past or different people have used in their TMR, and then can you explain a little bit about your manure management program?
Yes. And especially when we have tours with elementary age, because they're always so intrigued with the manure. And many times I'm like, did you ever read the book, Everyone Poops? And so just like we as humans, we take the food that we eat to give us fuel and energy, but then our bodies get rid of the waste. And that's exactly what the cows do as well. At our farm, if you look at our floor, there are slats, there's little grooves in the floor, and that is where the manure goes down. So right now, actually, Mallory and I are standing on a really big manure pit. All the manure is below us. And actually, every spring and fall, when it gets kind of stinky around your area, that is when farmers are putting that manure on their fields for fertilizer. So we are constantly using that cycle of using the manure, the cow's waste, to fertilize our fields and to give it the nutrients that we need. So like I said, that is another business that we use. We have a manure hauler that comes in. They have to pump and agitate the manure, and then that is spread onto the fields. So that is definitely how we use our waste and our manure here on the farm. And actually, we have other farms in our area. We personally do not do it, but they actually use their manure for bedding. They kind of separate it. They take the liquids, and that of course is used for fertilizer, but then they actually keep the solids and they use that for bedding their cows. So rather than using shavings like we do here on our farm, there are some farms that use the solid part of the manure. So farmers, we definitely are individuals that really use the products. We want to be able to recycle the things that we have for sustainability on the farms. And I forget.
The other one was same idea as being sustainable and using other products. Any byproducts or that are used within the TMR, kind of different additives.
There are. Sometimes we have, and I know we've used cotton, we've used other things. There's even, now we've never used it here on our farm, because all of those things do cost more money for putting things into the feed. So we really try to use things that we are able to grow on the farm. But There are people that even use like the waste of like candy. If we think about Hershey chocolate being close, those things sometimes go into TMR mixes. So it's really working with your nutritionist and figuring out what things are good things that you can afford and put into your TMR mix for the cows.
Perfect. Thank you. And then
Yes.
two more, and then I think we can, if we think the phone will stay cool enough, go to the calves. But I'll
Okay.
on the milking process. One question was, do the cows give the same amount of milk at each milking, or do they give more at like in the morning, or does it vary, I guess?
Well, they pretty much, especially since we milk 3 times a day, and we actually have the milking times spaced out the same amount of time. So they do pretty much give the same amount for each milking. So that's why it's so important as farmers. Say, for example, even if we milked 2 times a day, we would want to make sure that we had 12 hours in between our milking time. So that allows the cows to rest, to be out to get their feed and the water. So they do pretty much give the same amount for the morning, afternoon, and evening milking. So you kind of know what range. They might be a few pounds off here and there, but for the most part, they give about the same amount for each of their milkings.
Perfect. And then how old is your milking facility, and have you diversified in any way to offset dairy prices? And
yes, we are in our facility. This is about our 5th year here at this facility. Our dairy story is a little different. We started with a neighbor farmer, and we actually rented our facility for a few years before we bought this farm. And actually, we did build a new freestall barn and a parlor. There was a parlor here, but it was not in working condition. So we did build a new facility. So we were able to implement and incorporate a lot of the new technologies in order to help. As far as diversification, we do primarily just have our dairy cows. And because we do milk 250 cows, it allows us to have a better cash flow with everything. So my husband, just to like not farming related, but we do enjoy some other things. Like he actually officiates basketball and does some other things too that he gets paid for. But those are just things because we enjoy it. So we feel very fortunate that we are able to make a living milking cows and taking care of our herd. So the one thing that you commented about with milk price, that's the one thing as a dairy farmer, you have to just prepare yourself for those high and low points. So because things are constantly fluctuating and changing, it is just really important to work with a budget and your cash flow to know that you need to prepare for some of those years that milk prices aren't the greatest.
Perfect. And one more, or two more, but if we need to get walking to the calves, I don't want us to run out of time either. But obviously lots of hours go into your farm every day. How many people are needed to run the farm?
Okay, well, first of all, we are a family of 5. So it's my husband and myself, and we have 3 children. They all help out with some things, but we do have 2 full-time employees, our herdsman who is milking, and he takes care of a lot of herd health with breeding and things like that. And then we also have our other full-time is one of our night milkers. And then along with those individuals, we have 2 part-time employees. So we're actually in a little slump right now. We are actually in the process of hiring another full-time person. Some of our workforce has changed. So hopefully in the near future here, we will have 3 full-time employees. So it definitely does. We are very fortunate to have some great, reliable employees that love being here and really strive to take the best care of the cows too. So we feel very fortunate as a family.
Awesome. And then, oh man, all the questions are really great. I don't want us to run out of time. We have 20 minutes left, Stacy. So is that, I don't know if you want to move to the calves and we can walk and talk.
We will move, and hopefully the one thing I do, just especially since you are educators, I did just want to kind of show, I know they talked about lesson plans through ADANE. There are fantastic lesson plans that include your objectives. There's different experiments. There's also, I talked earlier about being a former educator. There are fantastic pieces of literature out there too that you can incorporate into your classrooms. This is one of my favorites. And one of the things that I talked about is that cows have a stomach and there's 4 compartments. So these are great nonfiction books that you can definitely incorporate into your classrooms as well. And I know this program today is through American Dairy, but there's also another fantastic program. It's called Discover Dairy, and they have lesson plans as well, and they have a program to adopt a cow. So as a classroom, you are able to kind of see the life of a calf and how it goes through. So there's so many free resources out there for you as educators. So I just wanted to throw in that little blurb as well as educators.
Yes, absolutely. And you will hear more about Discover Dairy. I think that's tomorrow's dairy session. So be sure to tune into that, because that, I agree, is a wonderful program. Okay, so a quick question. Is there an advantage to milking 3 times a day instead of 2 times a day?
Well, like anything, there's definitely pros and cons to so many different things. Of course, the cows are able to produce more with milking 3 times a day. And actually, we found that our cows were more comfortable when we went to 3 times a day. We used to milk 2 times a day for many years, but we were seeing that the cows were really full and kind of leaking when we would have them come into the parlor. So that's kind of why we made the decision to go 3 times a day, just because of their comfort, and they are able to produce more milk. It's kind of like, even as a nursing mother, the more frequent baby nurses off of her, like her supply is going to increase. So that is very similar to a cow mother as well.
And I have a 3-month-old at home, so yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, Stacey.
Yes, yes.
So I'll let you get into calves here, but the one question we had that I said we would cover when we moved to the calves was about dehorning. When do they get dehorned, and why is this beneficial? So if you can, but I'll let you go into your spiel on calves, and then we'll get some more questions on.
Okay. And I will tell you, some of the supplies that we had out here are no longer here because we switched around, and actually we needed to take some of our things back in so that it is ready for feeding our calves. But I'm just going to tell you, this of course is always the highlight. So maybe this is a good thing we're ending with the calves. There are a lot of different hutches out here. They have their own living space to keep them safe, that we're able to kind of monitor them, that they're getting the food and the nutrients and the care that they need. But let me just backtrack a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself. So we, of course, keep the heifers. They are the girls. When an animal gives birth, the girls are heifers, and they are the future of our herd. So when they are first born, we have a bottle, and I don't have it out here anymore. My husband walked off with it, but a bottle, it's about this size. So it's a lot larger than, of course, a baby bottle. But the first milk that we give to our calves, it's called colostrum. So just like you said that you have a 3-month-old at home, that first milk from a mother is so important to get into the calf. We try to get that in our calves in the first 4 hours of their life. It is filled with a lot of antibodies for the calf to just start developing their immune system. We have them on a bottle for about a week, and we try really hard to train them into a bucket because it's more efficient and it doesn't take as much time to feed them with a bucket. So like I said, they get milk. Colostrum is the first thing that they get. We then have a milk taxi. So what that is this piece of equipment that was out here that actually we put milk in it, and it goes through a pasteurization process. So it heats up the milk to about 146 degrees, and then it cools it to 104. So we feed the calves milk from the milk taxi at 104 degrees. So they get milk 2 times a day. We, of course, give them water. And the other thing that these calves get is a grain in the first weeks. This is a grain that is filled with a lot of protein that gives them energy to help them grow strong as well. But the one thing I talked about is their calf hutch. The one thing that we do is, especially if you think about a baby and before they get all their vaccinations and they are able to build up their immune system, they can get sick really easily. So that is why we do have them in their individual space. That is to make sure, because as you see, they love to suck. So if they're just like a little baby, they love to put things in their mouth. They would be like licking each other and sharing their germs and passing things. So that's why we do keep them on their own for their first 2 months of their life. So they are able to get their immunizations, they're able to get and build their immune system. And then when they are 2 months old, they actually move over to another area on the farm where there is group living. So I kind of say that that's kind of like when they're toddlers, when they're able to be together, they can socialize more, and their bodies are capable of being with other animals that are the same age that they are. You also talked about dehorning. We do that for safety reasons. There are some farms that do not dehorn. It does not hurt them. We do that when they are young in the first few weeks of their life. So we do that in order to prevent, especially with our workers and things like that, if they would have really big horns, someone could possibly get hurt. So that is one of the reasons why we do that. And especially when they are then in group living, they could, especially because they love to like rub up on each other and kind of check each other out. So that is one of the reasons why farmers do dehorn their animals, just for safety purposes.
Awesome. And I saw you got a friendly calf right there.
I sure do.
But cows can't bite, right? Because something with their teeth?
Yes. They only have teeth. I don't know if you are able to see this. And she is very frisky. She's ready for her meal. They only have teeth on their bottom. Isn't that such a cute little smile there? So I many times tell, especially when we have live tours here, I love when visitors can have the chance to come and put their hands and just having them experience the calf, because like I said, it's kind of like my fingers are her pacifier right now. She's just sucking on them and they love to explore, and they're very curious creatures. But I tell them they can't hurt them because they can't bite down on your hand because of just having teeth on the bottom.
Perfect. So two questions with the calves here. How many heifer calves do you currently have? And then a little bit, I know you touched on this, but how do the calves get to see their mothers after they're born at all?
Yes. When a calf is first born, she's probably with her mom for the first few hours. Sometimes before we actually move her, sometimes we even see the calf drinking from the mother. It's just amazing how they have that instinct. But we do, in the first few hours, we do remove the baby from the mother, just once again for safety reasons. A mother cow is a really big animal, and I didn't talk about how much they weigh, but they do weigh about 1,500 pounds. So for a little calf, it is very easy for them to get tramped on or to get hurt when they are with the mother. So that is one reason that we take them away from the mom in the first few hours. The other reason is just for us to be able to monitor the calf to make sure that they're getting the proper care that they need. So we don't do it to be mean. It's not like a mother cow is a nurturer like a human mother. It's not like they're gonna go nestle up. Like in the beginning, we allow the mother to, many times they lick the calf and clean off the afterbirth. But other than that, they really don't have a lot of care for their child. So that's why it's important as a farmer that we remove them so that we are able to monitor and take the proper care of the new life.
Perfect. And how many heifer calves do you have right now?
Right now, I think we have about 35 out here at the calf hutches.
Perfect. A couple questions about the milk that you produce on your farm. So
yes,
do you, does it strictly go for drinking milk, or is it any other products that your milk uses? And do you process it on the farm, or does it go somewhere else?
Yes, our milk actually gets processed. It leaves every other day. A milk truck comes and it takes it to a processing plant here that is close by our farm. And our milk from our farm is used for fluid milk. So gallon jugs or other smaller sizes of milk, ours is just for fluid. Sometimes we talk about being able to process it, but we know that is a whole new adventure and endeavor that I'm not quite sure that we as a family are interested in doing that right now. We really love where our milk goes, and our community really enjoys the milk that the facility produces. So we are very pleased with where our milk is processed at.
Perfect. And I think you touched on this too, but do you raise your own feed or purchase your hay and forages?
Yes, we do. For the most part, we farm about 250 acres. Our farm where we live, we have about 92 acres here, and then we actually rent some other ground around us in order to produce feed for our animals. We do sometimes have to purchase other things, just like when we were over there, some of the products that go in, like the cornmeal, that is something that we purchase from a local mill. We also purchase the concentrate that has the vitamins and the minerals, but the majority of the feed and things that we give the animals are things that we definitely produce here on our own. Because the one thing as a farmer, like I said, with the cash flow and things, it is so important that you don't have to buy so many things to bring in to keep your costs down.
Perfect. Thank you. And then we just got another one in. If a cow needs antibiotics, is her milk isolated from the big batch of milk?
Yes, it is. Just like anything. And of course, that's a great question that I think a lot of people, they think that there are antibiotics in the milk, and that is definitely not true. There is, if a cow needs medicine to help her feel better, to help her get back to health, there is medicine that the vet prescribes. However, there's a special withholding period. So if you give medicine, that milk needs to stay isolated, like you said, for a certain amount of time before it can go back into the tank to make sure that it no longer has that medicine in. So yes.
Okay, thank you. That's, oh, and one.
I think the sun is like, we're just going to move a little bit because Mallory's phone, we don't want it to freeze up.
We don't want it to freeze.
Just kind of end our time in the freestyle barn.
That's fine. Yeah, I think we're getting close to the end here too. So if anybody has more questions, please go ahead and throw those in the Q&A or in the chat. We did get one more, Stacy, that some labels say the milk is RBST free. Can you explain what this means?
Yes, and the RSBT, that is actually a natural occurring hormone that cows already have. And we actually, as farmers, we actually do not use that. It is a naturally occurring hormone, though, that is found in milk producing cows. So when it says that all milk, like that is, like I said, a naturally occurring hormone that cows have, but we do not inject them with anything like that.
Yep.
We actually, with the dairy that we process with, we actually have to sign a contract saying that we are not using that product or use, to inject them with anything like that.
Quick question on what is the circular structure you just walked by before you got into the freestyle barn?
That is a manure pit. So that is another location with some of our other younger heifers that are not milking cows yet. They are actually, when we have manure over there, we scrape it into that pit. So that is another area that holds that manure that is then spread out onto our fields for fertilization.
Perfect. This is a great question that what kind of educational background does your herdsman need to perform his job?
Our herdsman?
Yes. What kind of education or training did he have to do his job?
Actually, Eddie actually grew up on a farm, and he, of course, graduated from high school, but he did not further his education. So a lot of it was hands-on experience, and you can learn a lot just by working around with other individuals that help out at the farm. But Eddie personally does not have a college degree. My husband, there are many farmers that do have like an associate's or a bachelor's degree, but you do not need higher education in order to do those positions. So a lot of it is educating, like learning in the process.
And I know the folks from the Center for Dairy Excellence are going to talk about their dairy leaders of tomorrow. So if you have high school students that are interested in the dairy industry, but not quite sure how to start or what they want to do within that, the dairy leaders of tomorrow give a lot of really great information and explore a lot of different careers that might be of interest, and give that hands-on experience like Stacy was talking about.
Yes.
One more question in the queue here. What happens to any male calves?
The males?
Yes.
When we have a bull, they are actually sent off and they go to another location where many times they are grown later for beef and things like that. But we personally do not keep any bulls here on our farm.
Perfect. All right. I'm not seeing any more questions right now. I'll keep it open for a minute or so. We're coming right up on 2 o'clock, and I don't want to go over on time. But Stacy, is there anything else that you'd like to touch on? I know thank you for adjusting and being flexible. I know we threw off your usual plan, but
Oh,
anything
it's
else that you?
perfectly fine. No, I just, once again, I think it's so important to know that there's so many different resources available. There are so many people that want to share accurate information about farming and especially dairy. So I think it's so important to make sure you always want to find reliable sources, because there's a lot of things out there that are misrepresentations of farming. So especially, and that's why I love doing tours, because as a farmer, we love to tell our story. We love to have people come and see that we care for our cows and what we do, the kinds of practices that we have on the farm. So I commend you for participating in this event. I think it's fantastic. And I think it's so important, especially in the state of Pennsylvania. Agriculture, dairy especially, is one of our highest industries and economy pieces of economy. So it's so important that people in our area are aware of that. There are so many different jobs. You don't have to be personally a farmer or a herdsman, but I talked about there's so many other ag-related jobs that can be involved on a farm, which is fantastic. I think and I have to get the statistic correct, I think for every 10 cows, one job, and maybe you know that, I think it's for every 10 cows, one job is created. So
that sounds good, close for sure. Yeah.
I think that's what the statistic is. So I think it's a great field to get into. And I think especially knowing that, I think especially when I was younger, so many people pushed, oh, college, you definitely need to go to college. But I think there are so many jobs out there that you can like make a great living with not having to get in that debt of college. Like there's so many trades, and there's so many ag related jobs. So I think it's fantastic as schools to share that with students, knowing that there are so many different possibilities out there for them. And I also think, especially for the younger grades, it is so important that our kids know where their food comes from. So I think that's also one of the key things with ag education, is to make sure they understand how the cycle works and where their food comes from, that you just don't go to the grocery store, but there's steps of how it gets there and into their homes.
Perfect. And just because we know it's a hot one in Lebanon today, and we'll end on this question: does weather impact milk production?
Yes, it does. Especially when it gets really hot out, their milk production, we do see a decrease in their milk production. So cows pretty much love they like cooler temperatures. So they definitely produce more in the winter months. Summer, we do see a slight decline in their production.
Yep. With that, I think, thank you, Stacy, so much for opening your farm up to us virtually, and being such a great spokesperson and sharing such great information with our group today.
You are welcome.
I will pass it back to Cassidy and any closing remarks, but I think we checked all the boxes. So
thank you both so much, all three of you, for joining us today and sharing your knowledge and resources.